Hello and welcome back to the Cozy Mountain Homestead. My name is Kelsey and I am passionate about helping others learn how to homestead on a budget and with a very busy life. If you don't know, I live in the Pacific Northwest with my husband and my 3 children. I stay home and homeschool. Today's video is about how we create what we call a layered pantry. This is something that gives us a feeling of security around our food supply for the immediate use, but also for very long-term use. If you are aware of what's going on in the world, you might feel a little insecure about how you might provide food for your family if things get really weird and wonky and the food supply gets scarce, or there's an emergency, or there's a natural disaster and you find yourself scrambling to find food. You never want to put yourself or your family in that situation because food is next to water, number one for survivability in a chaotic situation. There is a saying that we're always 3 days away from needing to start doing desperate things to have food for our family. And so we never want to put ourselves in that situation. We want to make sure that we are feeling secure in being able to provide for our families. So this is something that is near and dear to our hearts because 2 years ago, we endured a horrific, once-in-a-lifetime ice storm in the Pacific Northwest, especially in our region. And our home was actually without power for 11 days. Thankfully, we were able to leave after 4 days, but before that, we were stuck at home and had very little access to electricity. We had a small generator and no heat. We have now fixed that with our wood stove, but the main thing that we ran into was we were very glad that we had a layered pantry, a way to provide food for our family without having to risk leaving our home and being in danger. The roads were literally iced over. Everything was scarce. The stores weren't getting any food. So we were really glad that we had our stock up of our emergency food. This is what we consider our layered pantry. We have been doing this for years, well before we had our property, well before we were homesteading. This is what we considered priority number one, even when we lived in the city, was having a layered pantry, something that can give us food security no matter what. So the first layer is called the everyday essentials. These are foods that you eat every single day that if in a pinch, you couldn't just run to the store and buy more of. So things that you might stock up on at like Costco that will last you a week or a month. Things like eggs, produce, canned goods, even dried foods like your baking supplies. For us, we use fresh milled flour, so having lots of grain on hand that we can mill and bake goods with, but also having sugar, a lot of baking powder, having a genuine good stock where you're never running out of something. That this is something I eat every day, and if you have children who have maybe are very picky, maybe limited diets that you have to leave things out, that way you have things on hand to make if you have no power, say for like 1 or 2 days or a week. You aren't running to the store to get food. You feel like, okay, we've got this. We're fine. We have plenty of food in storage. Another great thing with having your everyday essentials is if you have plans in place on your property, like if you have your own chickens. For us, we have an excess of eggs right now. So we have a lot of eggs, and that is something that is a renewable resource that we never really have to worry about having a protein source, but also having a garden. Right now it's July and our garden is flourishing. Everything is coming in. So lots of tomatoes. We have our zucchinis coming in, but next will be things like squashes and lots of different lettuces and peas and green beans. So having a garden is helpful. It's not necessary. Also, you'll know you don't need to have lots of property to have a garden. We used to live in the city and we had a genuinely good sized garden in our front yard. Our neighbors probably didn't love it, but we had a garden in our front yard and it sustained our family very well. So layer 2 is what we call our mid-term storage and pantry staples that will last a lot longer. So think 1 year to 5 years, things that will sit on your shelf and not go bad. And this takes a little bit more preparation and a little bit more storage space, but we make it work and we live in a very small house. So number 1 is canned goods. Make sure you are checking the expiration dates. Expiration dates are, flexible, but just make sure nothing's like 2 or 3 years past the expiration date, okay? But next is learning how to can your own food. So if you're like us and have a garden, you can learn how to keep your food longer and not have to eat it fresh. You can keep your produce on the shelf for many years by learning how to can them. So I make a lot of salsa, a lot of pasta sauce, but also just even canning whole tomatoes is amazing for keeping them long term. Even buying a ton of things like carrots that are inexpensive that you can learn how to can. We got a pressure canner for this. Learning how to keep them on the shelf for 2 or 3 plus years is amazing. Makes you feel a little bit more stable in your food supply. Another layer of having this long-term storage is learning how to dehydrate your food. So this is lemon balm from my garden, but learning how to dehydrate your herbs and fruits and meats. And you can dehydrate so many different foods, but I really love to do herbs and fruits and meats for long-term storage. And you can just buy a vacuum sealer. They're super inexpensive on Amazon. And you just put it on the top of the jar. This one's open, so I'm using it. But you can just put the can like this and it just sucks all the air out of the jar, and then it's shelf stable for many years. We just pulled out a jar of dehydrated blackberries from 2 years ago and they were totally fresh and delicious. And of course my kids ate them in 2 days. So make sure you do a lot of them when there's bounty, like in late September. We're going to have so many blackberries, we aren't going to know what to do with them. So we're going to dehydrate tons of jars of these and they're going to last for years. Now, layer 3 is what we call our emergency reserves. These are foods that are going to just be in a shed, not even looked at. We don't have to worry about them. If we need something, we can go out and get it and open it. But these aren't things that we need to consume regularly or even really worry about because they are so shelf stable that they just live in the shed. They are there for complete emergency situations. There is no water. You haven't had food for months. You've gone through all of your canned food. You've gone through all of maybe your chickens died and or your garden isn't growing because it's the middle of the winter. These are emergency situations. These foods are going to be pricier unless you are able to invest in some equipment. And so these are things that are like very emergency, but nice to have, and are also going to be long-term storage that will last a long, long time, okay? So number 1 would be freeze-dried food. So we like to get these Mountain House foods. Sometimes they go on crazy sale at Costco or on Amazon. And so when they do, we just stock up. We love having these. They're ready-made meals. They're delicious. We've tried other brands and Mountain House makes the best quality and they're definitely our favorites. But we're not going to be picky when it's the end of the world, right? So having something like this that's just, you literally pour water. It doesn't have to be boiling, but it can be boiling water, and it'll rehydrate the food and it's going to be delicious. And again, will stay put for years and not have to worry about it. Another thing is having Mylar bags. So I buy dried goods when they're on sale, or if I have extra, I'll just put them in a Mylar bag, and these will be shelf stable for 10-15 years in these bags. They are totally sealed and it's like buying something off the shelf. And I've opened bags that are 5-6 years old, and the pasta or rice or whatever is inside this bag is totally fine and perfect and nobody's gotten sick, okay? Mylar bags are amazing. Another thing you invest in, but it's worth it. They're super easy to use. You just use a hair straightener and you just, or you can use an iron, whatever you want to use to seal it, and then it's good for years. And then finally, I like to get things like this, these Augustin Farms. These go on sale on Amazon all the time, but I've even found them at like our cash and carry, or at like discount stores, or like warehouse stores. These go on sale all the time, and things like that I know my family will eat, but things like potatoes, strawberries, lots of berries, but they even make like freeze-dried milk or freeze-dried beans, like things that you can just pull off the shelf and open. They are going to be more pricey, but again, these are leave, put, and not have to worry about, but gives you a peace of mind. Something to make this a little bit easier for the freeze-dried foods is investing in a freeze dryer. This is something that we definitely want to do. They are an investment. They are pricey. I have seen them at Costco for, I think, like $1,500 for the smaller ones. They also do take up a lot of space. So if you are like us and live in a smaller home, kind of figuring out where you're going to keep a noisy, large machine can be a little bit tedious, but I think it would be worth it to make the investment and have the ability to freeze dry our food, things like eggs, fruit, all the things that we would dehydrate. But by freeze drying versus dehydrating, it makes the food so much more shelf stable, and you can feel confident putting it away again in the shed for years and not have to think about it. Or if you're like, let's pull out some freeze-dried eggs and make them up, whatever you want to do. But it does give you that peace of mind that you have been able to preserve your food for a much longer time than dehydrating or canning. So I hope that this video has given you a little bit more confidence and direction in how to create a layered pantry for your homestead. Whether you live in town or if you live in the country, having a homestead is universal. So if you feel like you need to boost up your layered pantry, I hope this was helpful. Make sure that you like this video and that you subscribe for more homesteading content, as well as baking content, and just generally living a life out in the country and being more self-sustainable in this crazy time in our world. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you have a great day.